forcing themselves into each other.
So this is just for me, isn't it? Like your mic.
Yeah.
Your mic. This is just for me. Yeah.
You can hold that as close as you want.
Okay. How's this?
Now.
I do it like Liam Gallagher style. Sunshine. Are you recording yet, by the way?
Yeah, he's live, don't worry. He's going to do clippings later.
Oh dear.
Dave's definitely going in.
Good. I actually did an Elvis impression on camera the other week that is locked away in my personal vault. Like, so I've got like a stand-up microphone.
Yeah.
And it's got like one on the top. And like, as I walked over it was just like, oh, there's an Elvis moment. And I was like, oh. Yeah, but that might never see the light of day.
Was it nearly as good as your bad jokes from today, though?
Bad joke? I don't remember telling any bad jokes.
No?
No. Only,
I think you do.
Only A-grade material. Yeah.
There was nobody that laughed who was like, okay, I'm going to forget that I said that one. So
I often think that like a bad joke told well can actually become a good joke, and that's what I was aiming for with those ones.
There's some people in the room might got it.
Yeah.
If that's ever shown online, you'll find it funny, and I'm sure everyone else will in 5 years' time anyway.
Well, that's all right. I like finding myself funny, so that's good. Yeah. Have we started? Are we on the way?
Yeah,
Oh, we're on the way.
I think that might be. It was a good sort of lead in a bit of conversation, laughter, and
I like
stuff like
it.
that.
I like it.
Cool. All right, Joe, thank you very much for your time, for sort of hanging about for the last couple of minutes
pleasure.
tonight. I just want to ask you a couple of questions. So, with regards to sort of like eFix now been up and running for 4 years, obviously the award ceremonies is part of that.
Yep.
But how have you seen eFix develop from day one up to sort of today's date?
Oh wow! Well, it's one of those things, isn't it? Probably, sometimes things look like an overnight success, but what you don't see is all the graft that goes on in the background. So we've been working very hard on eFix for over 5 years now. That we've been building this brand and trying to kind of keep electricians informed and updated, educated, and hopefully a little bit entertained. But yeah, we're sort of seeing the payoff for that now. The channels have all got very large on the different platforms. We engage with a lot of electrical contractors. We've built an incredible network of electricians as well. I think that's one of the things that I particularly love about the 30 Under 30 Awards. You've got a room there full of winners, people who are at the sort of at the top of the beginning of their game as electricians, and they're all linking up together. We just saw you chatting away with another former winner, arranging sort of helping each other out and jobs and stuff. And for me, that's really what it's all about. It's about creating connections within the electrical industry to lift everybody up. That's really what eFix is all about.
Amazing. That's a great response to that. And off the back end of that, what would you say is your biggest achievement that you personally have achieved with eFix itself? Is that the knowledge that you've imparted to people and generations that will be forever up on the internet? Because remember, your bad jokes will last forever.
I don't remember telling any bad jokes. I told some bad jokes that were well delivered, which turned them into good jokes. Yeah, that's the official party line. Yeah, that's the official party line. I think for me, it's the educational side of things. I mean, I'm an electrician, man and boy. I sort of started at 16 being an electrician. I loved teaching. I really loved imparting what I knew onto other people and learning more so I could teach more. So the CPD content that I produce, I'm really proud of, because that's part of a bigger picture. It's not just content that we put up that we think is okay. There's a very rigorous quality assurance process that goes through that. We get audited by CPD UK to make sure that we're following our quality assurance processes. And for me, that becomes a really quite a powerful tool that really helps to educate people. That and our podcast, Electrical News Weekly, I really like preparing, delivering that. I think that's quite a good kind of constant update for the industry as well, in an industry that's changing all the time. It's like the development of the electrical trade is like no other trade at the minute. There's no other trade that is changing, developing, growing as quickly as ours is, and we've seen evidence of that with the huge changes that have taken place in BS 7671 and the fact that, amendments have had to come out really incredibly quickly. The 18th edition, the first amendment came out in I think like a record-breaking period of time, because the industry had moved on in that short period. The news keeping people updated is really good. And again, just that idea that we're hopefully helping electricians to kind of come together, appreciate the trade a bit more that they're involved in, and hopefully just lift the tide for the industry really. And being a small part of that, as I am a small part of eFix, is a privilege really, and it's something that I'm really proud to be a part of.
Well, thank you very much for implying that piece of knowledge. And I'm sure as you are a qualified electrician yourself, it's nice to be able to see the younger generation coming through and really soaking up the knowledge that you guys have had so many years experiencing, the changes that have come throughout I don't know, whenever your edition was when you started, up until sort of the 18th part 3, coming part 4, you know, it must be such a wide change, and, you know, really nice to sort of feel to see these electricians nowadays that are, you know, going free flow with it into the industry. And and as you can see from the 30 under 30, there's just so many potential great people here that are going to go off to do wondrous things.
Yeah, definitely. You know, and thanks for not trying to guess which edition I trained under. That was very generous of you. Yeah. Answers on a postcard.
I did have a Jurassic Spark thing in my mind, but I thought I'd leave that.
They didn't do minus editions of the regs, just in case you're wondering.
Was it decimal numbers?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Started small and went big. But yeah, and what you're saying there about the 30 under 30 awards, and I think what I love is about the diversity of the winners. So we've got one learner who I think is like, he's done a year of his apprenticeship, but he was very clearly a winner because he's showing the right attitude and the right aptitude and the right development, and he's branching out into the wider industry. He's not staying focused on just what he's doing, and he's promoting his trade and himself out to a wider audience, even though he doesn't need to at the moment. He's not looking for more work. You know, he's not suddenly becoming active on LinkedIn because he wants a different job. He's doing that because he's proud of what he's doing.
Yeah.
You know, right up to people who've set up and run their own businesses. And I'm always in awe. I was saying to you earlier, I'm always in awe of, you know, these young people who've set up their own businesses and are running their own companies. That takes real courage and ingenuity, you know, and that's something that I never dared to do when I was a young man. I'm very, very impressed and proud of people who do that. I think that's a really good skill. So, yeah, seeing, you know, these people, they're coming along, they're finding out what they don't know, and then they're getting on with ways to learn it and apply that to their jobs. I think Richard Branson said, if someone asks you how to do a job that you don't know how to do it, say yes and then learn how to do it.
Yeah.
And we see a lot of that in the electrical industry. You know, yourself and others might, you know, don't know everything, but what you don't know, you go away and you research so that you can do the jobs that people need you to do. And that's how you grow. You know, you put yourself into positions that maybe are a bit uncomfortable to start with, that perhaps you're not as confident with as you'd like to be. And that's how you develop skills, and that is how the industry grows, and that is what makes a 30 under 30 winner, someone who's willing to stretch themselves outside their comfort zone for the good of themselves and the good of the trade.
I think when you watch back later on some of the interviews that we've had, a lot of people have expressed the exact same thing as what you said, where they've moved into industries that they didn't realise how it was going to impact them, but they've just said yes, dealt with it, adapted and overcome, and obviously it's clearly worked for them because they wouldn't be sitting here today under the 30 under 30. And obviously you've had a key part and role in being able to decide the key people that are obviously being accepted and sort of put on to the 30 under 30, which must also be, again, quite an honour to be able to be, you know, at the very starting point to, you know, to the very sort of end and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's a rigorous process. You know, it's not just people plucked randomly, you know, to fill slots. We get more applicants than we can, you know, sort of award prizes to, and so it needs whittling down and triaging, and then it needs judging by, you know, myself and the other great people who've been on the judging panel, who we're really grateful to. And it's not nailed on. Even if you get into that last small number, you know, there's still that whittling down process that comes. You know, there were people who were really close this year to winning and don't know. You know, so you know, if you're watching this and you've not won a 30 under 30 prize, even though you've applied, apply again, because actually, one of the comments we quite regularly make for many of our candidates, many of our nominees, is that they're not quite there yet. You know, it's like they're a year too early, or they're a couple of years too early. And actually, I think, you know, many of them, if they were to apply again next year, that extra year of maturity, that extra year of learning, that extra year of pushing themselves, they may well be the ones who do actually qualify to take home a prize next year and join us at a great event similar to this one.
No, I completely agree with you, and I think that obviously not being the winner now, but the next year of being that contender, that the possibility of being able to be within this elite sort of 30 under 30, 4 years running, the 5th year to come. You know, I'm sure there's some exciting things that you guys are going to be doing over the years.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't matter what year you win, it all accounts to your accreditation, your network building, your business building skills, and most importantly, the ever-growing knowledge that you guys are imparting and that the electricians are learning on a day-to-day basis by just saying yes and just doing the work.
This is it, and we keep saying to everybody. Thanks for that, Louis. Yeah, cheers, buddy. So we keep saying to people that this is the beginning of something, not the end of something. So yeah, you've hit this like really important milestone. You've won this award. That's brilliant, but that's not the end of a process. It's the beginning of a process. You know, and that I'm sure you found it as well, being a former winner, that you've made connections, relationships, friendships that have benefited you, your business, and probably your life.
Yeah.
Your sort of your lifestyle and your quality of life since you've won. So it's a powerful thing to be involved with, and we're very aware of that when we're doing the judging process. That it's important that we make the right decision because, our reputation to some extent is staked on the people who win. And what they do next, So yeah, we're just proud to be a part of it. It's an initiative that we're very, very happy to have created, and we're seeing the benefits of it with people all the time. So yeah, it really is something that we're very proud of.
Amazing. Obviously, now you're not a 30 under 30 award winner. I think we can clearly tell by that
50
now.
under 50 if I'm lucky.
I wasn't going to say anything. That's why I didn't go into the module when you explained.
The minus second edition. Yeah.
But for somebody that potentially is around sort of the years of sort of maybe progressive thinking, I'm out of the trade, I'm too old to be doing this, what would you be saying to those people about the education of that imparting knowledge is still so important from an existing person that's been in that trade?
Absolutely, yeah. And this is something that hopefully we'll see a little bit more of in the future, that the value of teachers and lecturers will improve and increase as time goes on. The education industry has been through a tough few years, and I know that from being a part of it. But yeah, if you do get the opportunity, if you're getting perhaps to the point of your career where your knees are starting to hurt, perhaps your back's giving out a little bit, and you don't want to be crawling around through lofts anymore, then teaching is actually a really good viable option. But don't view it as a semi-retirement option. To be a good teacher, you've got to have the knowledge, but you've also got to have the passion and the drive to actually help young people to learn, to change not just their kind of patterns of thinking about the subject that they're covering, but perhaps their patterns of thinking about who they are and how they fit into the world and what they can achieve with their lives. A lot of young people do need a lot of lifting up and inspiring these days to move on to, sort of bigger and better things. So yeah, and don't be put off, teaching's scary when you do it, but it's one of the most rewarding things that you can possibly do. And if teaching's not for you, think about taking on apprentices. Think about how you can take on other things in life. Yeah. Okay.
Talk about Jurassic Sparks. Here comes another one.
Think about people with sense of humour. Yeah. Think about people who tear your interviews up when you're halfway through. Yeah.
Dance moves.
Good old Gordy. Yeah. So yeah, teaching and educating is a really powerful thing, but even if that's not what you want to go down the road of, look at the apprentices that are coming on board. If you work for a business where you're taking apprentices on, take them under your wing. Think about what you can teach them. Think about what you would have wanted to know when you were their age, Yeah. And again, it's challenging. Sometimes, it might be that they're not all that kind of keen to be taught. But having said that, we've had some amazing young people in there today who have been apprentices for a short period of time, or perhaps have just finished their apprenticeship and so hungry for knowledge.
Yeah.
They just want to learn more and more. They just want to be the best electrician that they can be and take as much on board as they can. And, really it's up to perhaps those of us who are a little bit, long in the tooth.
I'm going to call it seasoned, shall we? There we go.
I like that, yeah, I like that, like a nice steak, yeah. Yeah, just think about what you can impart to those people, and what you can kind of help them with, because again, some of them have been spoken in glowing terms about the people who've mentored them and helped them through their early years in the industry, and inspired them, and helped them, and actually they wouldn't be where they are now if it wasn't for those people helping them. So you could be that person. It's just a matter of maybe a bit of self-belief, maybe a little bit of a belief in the trade, maybe a little bit of belief in the young people who are coming up and through the industry, and helping them to achieve their potential. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for your time and for imparting your knowledge and for everything that you've done for all of the award winners so far, and the award winners that are to come as well, because I'm sure you're going to be a part of this for the foreseeable future, and it'll be great to see you coming back.
That's the plan. Thanks so much, Dale.
Thanks so much. Really appreciate it.